Hey everyone, and welcome to Money Moves for Teens. My name is Talia Levy, and in this podcast, I will be talking about business, entrepreneurship, and of course, money. I hope you take something away from this episode and enjoy. As teenagers, we have many things on our plates. We have to account for school, chores, exercise, and more. And when you throw running a business into the mix, it gets even more complicated. If you are in this situation, you may find you don't have enough time to get everything done, or you're simply overwhelmed with all the things you have to do. This episode, I'm going to help you out with that problem by talking about 7 tips on how to manage your time when dealing with both school and a business. These tips are all things I've implemented into my own life, and I truly believe they each play a part as to how I stay organized and keep track of how I'm spending my time. And even if you don't fit this exact situation I'm describing, these tips will help you improve your overall time management skills, so you should still find value in this episode. First, you should create schedules for all the different aspects of your life. Make one for your business, your exercise routine, your chores, and so on. For example, I have a set schedule for my business, this podcast. Fridays and Saturdays, I write my new script for the week. Mondays, I record and create my outline and discussion guide. Wednesdays are when I create my YouTube video for the week, and Thursdays are when my episode gets released to you all. Then the cycle starts all over again, and that's how I stay consistent with my uploading schedule. Another key thing I do relating to my podcast is that I always work 2 weeks ahead so that it never gets to the point where I'm behind. So yes, if you're listening to this on the day of this episode's release, I have 2 more lined up and ready to go. This is a tactic you might possibly implement into your own business if it makes sense, or into your schoolwork. I found creating a schedule and always staying ahead helps me to avoid confusion and stress around what I have to get done for my business and when. Maybe you constantly find yourself with loads of laundry piled up every week. You can make a chores schedule that states you'll do your laundry once a week, and you can create these schedules in your phone and have it notify you when these tasks need to get done. And since this is a schedule, it's really a routine you're creating for yourself. And we all know if you stick to a routine long enough, the things in it become second nature, and you won't need to be reminded to, for example, do your laundry every week because you would have hopefully memorized your routine by then. In conclusion, this tip has helped me out so much, and creating a schedule or routine for different aspects of your life is a major way to get organized and take control of your time. Second, you should create daily to-do lists. These can be made either the night before or the day of. On these lists, I list out any and everything that I need to get done for the day, but there are different variations of this tip you can try as well. For example, instead of listing out the 10 things that come to your mind, you could write out your top 3 to-dos for the day. Some people even narrow it down to the one big thing they're focusing on. If you're the type of person that gets discouraged if you don't cross everything off your list, then the top 3 or the one big thing variation might work better for you. Whichever way you choose to make yours, I believe this tip is helpful because you set your intention for the day and you know exactly what you need to get done. If I don't take the step in the morning, I notice either A, I find myself getting distracted frequently, or B, as I'm working on one task, my brain is constantly thinking about everything else I need to do. But regardless of how you choose to make your list, you will still feel the satisfaction of crossing off a to-do. And this list is for tasks of all sizes, from folding laundry to attending a birthday party. And keep this detail in mind as I continue talking, because the fact that you can write down small and large to-dos is what will differentiate this point from one I make in a few minutes. Third, you should set time limits for your tasks. This tip will be especially helpful for those of you that often procrastinate or are distracted easily. For example, if you need to edit a YouTube video, literally set a timer on your phone for an hour or however long you need and get as much done as you can in that hour. Setting the timer creates a sense of urgency, which some won't appreciate but others will because it motivates them to focus on the task at hand. If you don't get distracted super easily, you can still utilize this tip by setting an estimate time limit for your tasks. What I do, for example, is I know I usually spend around 2 to 3 hours creating a new YouTube video. So if it's 2 p.m., I'll just tell myself, see how much you can get done by 4 p.m., instead of setting a physical timer. It's a more flexible time period, and I find that works for me. So you can choose whichever way you like, and maybe you decide to try a mix of both. Either way, the time aspect, watching the clock run down, gets you motivated to work on what's right in front of you. Fourth, when you're working, put your devices on Do Not Disturb. It's a known point and it doesn't need too much explanation. Our phones can distract us so easily, especially if notifications are on for every app. So if you're struggling with getting things done, try this tip. Put your phone in another room if possible when finishing homework or editing for YouTube. It'll help you make the best use of your time and you will hopefully get more done. Fifth, you have to assess how you're spending your time and eliminate tasks that really don't serve you. We all have 24 hours in a day and we shouldn't let that time go to waste. Something you can start looking at is your screen time. How much time are you spending on Instagram or YouTube? Are you proud of that number? If not, you can work to fix it. And this tip doesn't only account for wasting time on your phone. For example, the outline and discussion guides I mentioned earlier that I create take a good hour and a half to make. Based on how many people seem to need them, I've decided that spending that hour and a half creating the guides isn't a good use of my time, so now I spend that time on something else. So if you're constantly wondering where the time goes in your day, actually look back and reflect on what you did to decide what you may need to start eliminating so you can get all the things done that you would like to. Sixth, you should plan your weeks and months on a calendar. I know I talked about setting daily to-dos, but figuring out what you're doing on a day-to-day basis isn't going to provide you with the preparation you need throughout your week. You don't want to come to the point when you're scheduled to stay after school with your teacher on Tuesday, not realizing you actually had a basketball game that same evening. This calendar can be online or it can be a tangible one, meaning you can hold it or touch it. I use Google Calendar personally, and the main reason I do that is so it can be shared with family so we're all on the same page as to what's going on for that week or month. So if you have family members, that would be something to consider. It gets much harder to pass a physical calendar around to compare that. While people utilize their calendars for different types of events, I'll tell you all what I do and maybe you can take from it. On my calendar, I'm entering things like appointments, events like birthdays, etc. I'm not entering things such as chores, small tasks like writing a birthday card, for example, none of that. Those are for my daily to-do lists. My calendar is really more of an overhead look at what's happening in the coming weeks and months. Also, in my example I just gave, I would put an after-school meeting with a teacher, an appointment, and a basketball game, an event on my calendar. So again, test it out and see which way works for you, but I definitely recommend creating a calendar for an overhead view of your events for the week and month. Lastly, the seventh tip is to make sure you're implementing self-care into your schedule. Working on schoolwork and your business every day will really take a toll on you, so you need to make sure you're taking proper care of yourself. There are so many sub-points that fit under this huge self-care category, but today I'm going to highlight 3 main ones I feel are very important. The first tip under self-care is to start doing daily meditations. Meditating is going to help you focus on the present moment and help you to clear your mind of all the clutter. And you don't have to meditate for hours a day. Even starting with 5 minutes a day is going to help you out so much, and you'll notice it in your mood, how you treat people, etc. You don't need an app to meditate, but I use one called Headspace, and I definitely recommend it. The second self-care tip I have for you is to remember to take breaks. Taking breaks are essential. We can get so caught up in our work and every area of life, we forget to take this step. Actually, the Headspace founder has tweeted about this, something along the lines of, "When was the last time doing nothing was your plan for the day?" I think that's so important to note and keep in mind. Please make sure you're taking at least 15-minute breaks in between editing videos for YouTube or doing all of that math homework that's assigned to you. In the break, take a walk or read a book or just sit there and close your eyes. Whatever makes you feel rested and rejuvenated, do it. If you work for hours straight, you will get burnt out, especially when your work is centered mostly around screens, so please take this necessary step. And that brings me to my third and final self-care tip of the day. That is to be conscious of how much screen time you're consuming. Personally, this has become much more apparent because of the current situation now that I'm doing all virtual learning. Looking at a screen has now become a requirement for schools for many students across the world. It's not healthy to look at a screen all day, and it can make you feel tired and drained of energy. It can even take a toll on your vision. A number of people suggest implementing the 20-20-20 rule. Look 20 feet away from your screen every 20 minutes for 20 seconds, and that should help with your vision. But in the end, definitely be aware of how much time you're spending on your screen, and if you find that number is too high, make the necessary changes to fix it. So those were the 3 self-care tips I'm giving for today. Make sure you're meditating, taking breaks, and being mindful of how much time you're spending on screens. If you find these self-care tips helpful, let me know on Twitter or Instagram. Both are linked down below, and I'll be sure to include more of these tips in future episodes. Also, there is so much more to cover relating to enhancing your time management skills, but this episode was specifically geared towards balancing your school-work life. In the near future, I can definitely talk about other strategies I use to manage my time, what apps I use for doing that, and so on. Again, let me know if that's something you would be interested in. I want to close off this episode with some words of encouragement. If you feel overwhelmed at times, it's completely normal and not everything is always going to line up perfectly how you want it to. I know trying to stay on my podcast schedule as I've transitioned into online learning hasn't been the smoothest for me, but I'm getting back on track and I'm confident you all can as well. I know I did talk a lot about my personal experiences this episode, but one, I wanted to give you all clear examples of how these points can really help you and how you can implement them into your own lives. And two, I want to assure you I'm not just giving you random tips I found on the internet. All 7 of these tips are in process in my life right now, and I really hope they help you and make your life easier. So those were the 7 tips I have for you if you're trying to successfully manage school and a business. You should create a schedule for every aspect of your life, create daily to-do lists, and set time limits for your tasks. Put your devices on Do Not Disturb, assess how you're spending your time, plan your weeks and months in a calendar, and implement self-care into your schedule. You can try one of these tips, or you can try all of them. Either way, I hope they make your life easier and help you be successful in both school and your business. I'm proud of you either way, and I believe you can do it, 100%. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this week's episode and learn something new. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions through my Twitter at MoneyMovesForTeens or through my Instagram at talia.simone_. If you decide to follow, you will be notified every time I release a new episode, and I do frequent polls about my podcast so you all can be part of my podcast decisions, such as choosing episode topics. If you are more of a visual learner, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel where I create animations for these episodes. It's the same great information, just in a video form. If you would like to continue building on what you learned this episode while supporting my podcast, in my descriptions I always have an outline and discussion guide. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com/Talia Levy and access them through the shop section of my site. Print out the guides for your favorite episodes and talk about them with friends and family. Also, if you like Money Moves for Teens, be sure to give a rating and share it with those who will benefit from the information. I hope to see you next week. Bye!